Gaius the Sage is a legendary sorcerer known as the strongest sage in the world. In this fantastical world, all mages are born with something called crests that dictates their magical abilities. Gaius has achieved the highest possible level in his crest of creation, making him the strongest sage ever. However, he is still unsatisfied because he could be even more powerful if he had the fourth crest of close combat. Since it's impossible to change the crest you're born with, Gaius decides to reincarnate with the fourth crest thousands of years later. Our story starts with Gaius as he heads to the capital at the young age of 12 to enroll at the Second Academy. He is taking in the vastness and beauty of the capital when he overhears a girl named Alma yelling at a blacksmith inside a weapon shop. He enters the shop to eavesdrop further like a creep and overhears that Alma's friend's magical sword broke when she was trying to protect Alma from a monster. She feels really guilty about it and needs to get it fixed for her friend since the Second Academy's entrance exam is on the next day. However, the blacksmith doesn't know how to enchant a sword with magic, so he refuses the job and recommends she find someone else. Sensing her desperation, Matthias butts in and claims he can handle the enchantment if the smith makes the sword. The smith finds it hard to believe that someone with the fourth crest can pull something like that off. You see, from Gaius' time thousands of years ago to the present era, the most powerful crest of close combat has somehow become regarded as the weakest crest and is now more commonly known as the crest of failure. How ironic. Alma, however, has a good gut feeling about Matthias and gives him the Magistone to infuse with the sword. While waiting for the blacksmith to forge the sword, her friend enters the shop. Both Matthias and the friend immediately get a crush on each other. Blushing, she introduces herself as Luria Bendroth. Shortly after, the blacksmith finishes crafting the sword. Matthias sets it down on the table in front of them and takes the Magistone. With just a simple touch of the sword, he enchants it with enhanced fortitude and sunder steel to make it sturdy and light enough for Luria to use it easily in combat. All of them are in disbelief over how quickly he enchants it, especially without reciting any incantations. Luria decides to test it with some practice swings, but she ends up slicing the table cleanly in half by merely touching the table with the sword's tip. Looks like the enchantment worked. The next day, Matthias meets up with Luria and Alma to take the practical entrance exam for Second Academy. Luria passes the swordsmanship part of the test with flying colors thanks to her new sword. After hearing Matthias was the one to enchant it, the captain of the Knight's Order, Guile, decides to take his exam. If he can handle Guile's attacks well, the captain will vouch for his admission regardless of his other test scores. Matthias happily takes up the challenge and disarms Guile in an instant. Dumbfounded, the captain surrenders. Next is the casting exam, where each candidate has to hit 5 targets with 5 arrow, a type of incanted magic. Incanted magic is a method that can be used by anyone to cast magic by the recitation of specific words. Objectively, it's an inferior method because it leaves the caster vulnerable to attack mid-chant and has a poor conversion rate of the caster's energy to the spell's power. However, for reasons Matthias doesn't understand, incanted magic is considered the ideal magic for combat, and the Crest of Creation, which is highly compatible with incanted magic, is also known as the Crest of Glory in this era. In his turn, Matthias decides to employ another strategy. His Crest of Close Combat, now known as Crest of Failure, is best for wordless chants and has a very small range. Matthias casts a wordless spell that hits all 5 targets at once but also damages most of the school grounds due to the lack of precision in his magic. Everybody spectates in awe as they witness the power of wordless chants for the first time. Anyway, all 3 of them pass the entrance exam and becomes classmates. The next day, they attend the opening ceremony, where the Second Academy's headmaster, Edgeworth, delivers a very short speech to encourage the students and then picks out Matthias from the audience to tell him to drop by his office. 1,000 thoughts rush into Matthias' head, and he prepares himself for the worst. To his surprise, the headmaster praises him for his prodigious skills in swordsmanship and wordless spells. He confirms Matthias' suspicions that wordless magic is a lost craft, and that the First Royal Academy has systematically removed wordless magic from everything. Headmaster Edgeworth, who wishes to revive it, requests Matthias to teach the students wordless casting in time for the inter-school competition, so that they can prove the power of wordless techniques. Matthias demonstrates his abilities with wordless casting and then starts teaching the students basic techniques. Soon enough, most of them get the hang of it. The day of the inter-school competition arrives a month later. Matthias senses the presence of someone with 10 times more magical power than him, equal to demon-level power. He walks into the arena to see 3 First Academy opponents. He immediately recognizes that the one in the middle is actually a demon in disguise and is the source of the magic power he sensed earlier. The demon even has a fake crest to make himself appear human. Really, the full package. The 2 fighters on either side attack first, but their incantations are too slow and Matthias takes them down with a wordless spell. Only the demon student is left standing, who is so taken aback that he activates a spell before pretending to chant the incantation. The audience notices this and wonders what on earth is going on. Matthias slashes his sword at the demon, forcing him to fly upward and retaliate with wordless magic. He touches the demon with his sword while casting spell Shatter to reveal the demon's true appearance. With that, Matthias exposes how demons infiltrated the First Academy thousands of years ago and systematically denounced the powerful crest of close combat over time so that humans, their eternal enemy, would become reliant on the weaker form of incanting magic. As the students try to evacuate, the demon tries to flee by flying away, but Matthias cuts one of his wings before he takes flight and defeats the demon. Matthias is invited to the king's palace along with Headmaster Edgeworth to reward his incredible feat of defeating a demon. Matthias requests the right to use all the resources found in the kingdom's dungeons. In Gaia's time, dungeons were the most valuable asset of a kingdom as they contained precious magical ores and monster artifacts. However, since magical knowledge is waned now, nobody knows their true worth. The king grants him access and then asks him for his opinion on the sudden disappearance of the kingdom's chosen ones, a title given to exceptionally strong mages. Matthias deduces that all of them were demons in disguise, and they chose to flee once the student in First Academy was exposed. Since their cover is blown, Matthias believes they will be preparing for a full-blown attack on the kingdom and about to gain control. His best guess is that they have about 3 months until this attack. The king gets anxious, but Matthias assures him that all that's needed is a magical barrier to protect the city, which can be made within a month by the united efforts of the Second Academy students. He also recommends that they be taught wordless magic. His Majesty agrees with his ideas and appoints him the kingdom's leader for the fight against the demons. Later, Matthias goes to the treasury to look for divine-level magical artifacts needed for the preparation of the barrier. A particular sword piques his interest, and upon analyzing the magic patterns enchanted on it, he recognizes it as one of the magical swords he made in his previous life. He takes it as well as a blue pendant he made in his previous life, which has the ability to increase the gains from experience points. After searching the entire treasury, he still needs more items and decides to go to the dungeons to look for them. At school, he invites Alma and Luri to go to the dungeons with him as a party. However, they hesitate to go because they think they'll hold him back. Alma says she was always good at archery, but was told to give it up because it doesn't pair well with incanted magic. However, she is no good with a sword. Matthias has an easy fix to her problem. He takes a bow and enchants an arrow with simple wordless magic, causing the target he hits with it to blow up and proving archery can be a valuable combat skill. Moreover, Alma has the crest for rapid firing, which will naturally make her highly compatible with magical archery. He also reassures an excited Luri that he will help her improve at enchantments to take advantage of her crest of creation, the crest in his previous life that he chose to discard by reincarnating. Now motivated, the girls agree to join his party. The trio enters the dungeon where Matthias uses the first floor to train Alma and Luri. The monsters differ from floor to floor, but the first floor typically has non-threatening types. He finds a small crab-like monster and lays it on a pile of rocks as a target for Alma to practice magical archery. She successfully enchants the arrow and hits the monster on the first try. Next, he asks her to hold the arrow for longer before releasing it and to concentrate on the trajectory of the arrow. She follows his instructions and releases it, after which she spots another monster on the ground. This causes the arrow to change its course mid-flight and hit the monster. Matthias explains that this is the thread-guided Enshin and that Alma should practice this until she can hit multiple monsters with just one arrow. Excited to master her new move, she goes off to explore the first floor of the dungeon on her own and retrieve magistones from the monsters she kills to help build the barrier. Once she's gone, Matthias begins his enchantment lessons for Luri. The first essential learning for an enchanter is to know how to make a weapon. Matthias disintegrates one of the dungeon's plain-looking walls, saying that all of them are a rich source of ores. He teaches her how to extract ores from the raw material and purify them into pure metals and minerals. She successfully extracts pure mithril and iron from the raw material herself. By the time Alma returns with a bunch of magistones, Luri already knows the basics of making and enchanting swords. Happy with their progress, Matthias decides they should hit the 10th floor to test everything they've learned. Alma and Luri breeze through the monsters by working together. Alma attacks most of the monsters and Luri provides support by making arrows for her. However, the real test begins when a ferocious killer dog arrives. Alma misses it the first few times and the monster is about to pounce on her, but Luri saves her by casting a firewall between them. Alma regains composure and hits its foot and then its neck, killing it. Matthias praises them for their quick progress and good teamwork and builds a safe area for them to rest in. In the meantime, he will go to the 25th floor to retrieve the adamantite ore needed for the barrier. After hearing this, Alma is in disbelief because the furthest anyone has gone is the 23rd floor, which was the 30-man party led by Gaius, god of magic. Matthias gets confused over the person having the name Gaius, but chalks it up to coincidence. He goes down to the deeper floors until he finds rocks containing adamantite. He suddenly detects the presence of a strong monster and guesses it must be the floor boss. Considering it his first test with the crest of close combat, he charges toward the aura. He clears the path of any obstructions for the monster to come to him. It senses it coming from the back and narrowly dodges it. The monster is an arc serpent, an aggressive monster with powerful lunges and a venomous bite that can even corrode rock. He faces it head-on, but his sword barely makes a dent in its tough scales. Finally, he crushes a Magistone to release a cloud of magical energy that he gathers in his blade to produce a powerful strike that obliterates the serpent. With the dead monster in tow, the party leaves the dungeon and goes to one of the city's guilds to sell the head of the monster and Magistone. Even though the Magistone from the monster is bigger than any the city has seen, it's not big enough for Matthias Barrier. The guild gives them a big fortune of 750 gold coins for the goods, which Matthias splits evenly among the three of them. While chatting and walking around town, he senses two demons going towards the academy. One of the demons is relatively weak, while the other is stronger than the one he faced in the inter-high competition. They plan to intercept the demons before they reach the academy, with Matthias facing the stronger one while the two girls deal with the weaker one. Matthias attacks first, but it doesn't work because he doesn't have enough magic to defeat them. So instead, he just uses the demon's spell by taking control of it. He draws the demons downward until they are close enough for Alma to hit the weaker demon. She uses enchanted arrows that slow him down. Annoyed, the weaker demon splits up with the other and diverts his attention to the other two. The stronger demon casts a wide-range spell that's impossible to dodge. However, Matthias breaks it by casting a spell at its weak spot. The demon is taken aback because it's the first time in his lifetime that a human has beaten that move. Matthias uses his countless combat experience from his previous life to slash the demon with his sword. The demon decides to retreat for now, but Matthias casts an occlusion orb on him, which turns the magical energy of a host against them, causing the demon to become incapacitated. As a last measure, he tries to cast a demon-exclusive spell that sacrifices his life to summon a horde of monsters, but Matthias expects it and stops it. With no other options left, the demon accepts his defeat. Meanwhile, Alma and Luri have been buying time by continuously hitting the weaker demon with arrows and using his recovery time to draw back. Once Matthias is done dispatching his demon, he goes to aid them. After the demon sees his stronger accomplice has been defeated, he makes the smart decision to run away. Since Matthias can't make the flight up to him, Alma fires an arrow that slices one of his wings, causing him to lose some height. Matthias slashes the other wing, forcing the demon to fall down to the ground. The next day, the king invites the three to the palace to praise them and grant their wishes in return for their brave deed. Matthias asks for more dungeons again, while Alma and Luri accept money rewards. While the king rambles about some useless stuff, Matthias gets up and demands the imposter in the courtroom reveal themselves. When nobody appears, he casts a spell at a spot in the ceiling, and a scream is heard which the king recognizes as Elhart's, a former chosen one. He explains that the demons set up a magical interface spell there, allowing them to spy on the courtroom from a long range. He is even able to pinpoint the coordinates of their hideout, which turns out to be in a village that the demons destroyed years before. Unfortunately, the village is too far for them to make the trip in a reasonable amount of time, and Matthias isn't strong enough yet to use teleportation magic well. He thinks of another method of getting there but keeps it a surprise from Alma and Luri, who he drags up to the mountains. They are petrified to see a living, breathing dragon, but Matthias intends on using it as their means of transport. He tells them to stand back while he negotiates with it. This dragon is Iris the Darkness Dragon, a dragon he had fought in his previous life, but had since become allies with after she surrendered. Iris doesn't recognize him at first and orders him to leave her domain, or she will burn him to a crisp. He continues walking toward her, so she casts a dragon breath spell. Matthias dissolves it by hitting its weak spot and reveals that he is Gaius Resurrection in dragon speak. Once she realizes it's him, she immediately apologizes and begs for mercy. He assures her that he is only here to ask for her help, but Iris says she can't fly anymore because of her tattered wings. She explains that after Gaius disappeared, one of the giant magical reactors in a human kingdom exploded, leading to other reactor explosions, setting the humans back to the Stone Age. This explains why humans have lost all their progress in magic. Matthias uses enchantment magic to salvage her wings enough to do the job, but isn't perfect because the Crest of Creation is ideal for enchantments. After that, they switch to human language for Alma and Luri to understand. Delighted, Iris takes her first flight in 5,000 years to take the party to their destination. Soon enough, they reach the village and Matthias finds the house where Elhart is hiding in. Nobody is to be seen in the house when they enter because Elhart uses a concealment spell to make himself invisible. However, they find his position by detecting his magical energy, and Matthias undoes his concealment spell. Elhart goes on the attack, but Matthias keeps dodging his moves while Alma throws arrows at him continuously. Elhart thinks of the arrows as a mere nuisance until he notices his movements getting slower and slower. Turns out the arrows Alma was using were enchanted by Luri with Magitoxin, which drains a demon of its magical energy. Pissed that a group of tiny humans are beating him, he uses Atrocify, a demon spell that greatly boosts his strength but will take his life once all his magic is used. Matthias uses an illusion spell to trick the demon into attacking a projection of Alma and Luri, delivering a huge dose of Magitoxin in mist form. Alma shoots a final arrow at his head, and Elhart is defeated. After that, he tells Alma and Luri to wait for him in the sky with Iris while he fights a much stronger opponent. Once they're at a safe distance, he crushes 3 Magistones to release their energy, forcing the mist demon he sensed earlier to materialize. They begin fighting, and the demon cuts Matthias' arm right off. However, this was Matthias' plan all along. He cast a Restore and Analysis spell on his arm before the fight. This allows him to rejoin his arm and gain information on the demon's magic. This allows him to dodge all his moves and inch closer to the demon, at which point he gashes the demon's hand with his sword. Feeling threatened, the demon casts a spell similar to Atrocify, but which won't kill him afterward. Having analyzed his magic already, Matthias easily nullifies it and all his other spells. The cut that Matthias made on the demon's hand is also enchanted, and it starts absorbing all the magical energy around them. He crushes a Magistone, causing all its magical energy to rush into the demon's body, leading to an explosion. The explosion reveals a Dragon Vein pillar, a strong source of power that the demons were intentionally hiding in the abandoned village. Matthias guesses that they were planning to use it to unleash a horde of thousands of monsters on the capital, but the explosion has luckily steered its target several miles away from the city, buying him time to return and make preparations for the attack. The party returns to the academy with Iris in human form so Matthias can request for her to become a student. The headmaster agrees to let her join as long as she passes the entrance exam with a score of 47 out of 50. Not yet accustomed to human societal norms, she glamorously fails the written exam. In the practical swordsmanship exam, she takes on Guile the Knight. Still clumsy in her new body, she drops her sword and goes to pick it up, which is when Guile attacks her. She casually stops his swing by grabbing the sword with her bare hands and then swings her sword like a baseball bat, sending Guile flying into the roof of a building. Next is the magic practical exam, where she has to hit all 5 targets. Iris charges up her spell, which Matthias predicts will be too strong and makes a barrier against it. When she finally releases it, the whole school ground is obliterated, including the 5 targets. Mission failed successfully. The headmaster has no choice but to accept a student with unbelievable calamity-level magic. Second Academy is lagging behind in collecting the ores required for the barrier, as most of the enchantment-specialized Crest of Creation students are enrolled at the First Royal Academy. The 2 academies have a long history of animosity, making it almost impossible to employ the arrogant First Academy's headmaster's help. As expected, the headmaster refuses to acknowledge Second Academy's proof of strength from the inter-high competition and considers them too lowly to help. Matthias suggests having another competition, with either side sending as many participants as they wish and the loser doing whatever the winner asks. The First Academy headmaster agrees only on the condition that Matthias stays out of it. He agrees to those terms. On the day of, the First Academy goes all out by sending a large group of their best Crest of Creation students, while Second Academy sends only 5 students, none of whom bear the Crest of Creation. Expecting an easy win, the arrogant headmaster tells them to begin. All the First Academy students begin incanting a spell, but the chant is so long that the 5 students easily kick all their butts with wordless magic. The king, who is secretly watching from the top, arrests the First Academy for treason as he is still making his students practice incanted magic despite his order to convert to wordless magic. With him out of the way, the king commands the First Academy students to help the Second Academy in their efforts and to pursue an education in wordless magic. The transition occurs smoothly, with the First Academy students happily cooperating. Looks like they hated their headmaster too. While the students mine and gather mithril from the dungeons, Matthias takes his party and Iris deeper into the dungeons to look for a monster that will give them a 60-centimeter diameter Magistone to form the barrier's core. He also uses this expedition to test out whether Iris can adapt to her new body and become a good fit in their party. He decides to summon a strong beast by using a Magistone. He asks Iris to infuse magic into the stone slowly, but Iris' definition of slow is way different, and she ends up summoning a dragon more powerful than Matthias had intended. Iris distracts the dragon by cussing out in dragon speak and throwing occasional punches at it. Meanwhile, Matthias plants multiple casting circles around the dragon. Once he's ready, he tells Iris to provoke the dragon into casting Dragon's Breath. Her teasing works, and the dragon casts it while Iris tries to run away. Matthias activates the casting circles, which produce a powerful spell that inverts the direction of the dragon's breath and inflicts it on the dragon itself. The breath directly hits the dragon and incinerates it into ashes. Iris brings them the large Magistone. Now sure that she is a valuable asset, Matthias invites her to join their party. He trains her to use her human body by practicing maneuvering around on uneven ground while protecting a shell from Alma's arrows. He also gets Luri to level up by making new equipment so that she can eventually make him a good sword. Once she gets the hang of enchanting multiple spells into a weapon, she makes new ones for each party member. The weapons are strong enough to pulverize stone. It seems that all is going according to plan for Matthias. His party is progressing rapidly, more and more people are adopting wordless magic, and the barrier will soon be made to protect the kingdom from demons. Once everything is completed, he plans to leave the city to further his own agenda. The day of constructing the barrier finally arrives. Matthias detects a large magical presence above the second academy and determines that the demons plan on attacking the academy using a teleportation technique called Magirode before the barrier is made. However, his hands are filled with casting the barrier, so he asks Alma and Luri to buy him time. As anticipated, a demon appears from the portal and attacks all the students with a powerful fire spell. The students make a magical shield to defend themselves while Luri tries to conjure a casting circle. All of her attempts fail until she's down to the last Magistone. Seeing all of her classmates trying their best to protect her until she finishes, the enchantment fills her with motivation, and she successfully crafts the magical arrow she wants. Alma shoots it at the demon, piercing him through the chest. In his moment of weakness, the students use a spell to defeat him. However, more demons start pouring out of the portal. It looks like a hopeless situation for the humans, but Matthias waltzes into the scene after finishing the barrier preparations. He single-handedly defeats all the demons, and all the students cheer him on. Once the demons are taken care of, Matthias activates the barrier by putting the last Magistone in place. A beautiful iridescent dome surrounds the kingdom, protecting the people from danger. However, their job isn't over yet. Remember the Dragon Vein Pillar? The monsters summoned by it have finally arrived near the kingdom, and the students must get rid of them before they attack the nearby villages. The students take care of the first wave of demons, but Matthias' party steps in to wipe out the second wave of stronger demons. The final challenge is the Void Eater, a type of monster that grows by devouring other monsters. Hardly a challenge though, because OP Matthias actually feeds it Magistones to make it grow even more so that they can reap better resources from it when they kill it. Sure enough, Matthias takes it down with a few slashes of his enchanted sword and cuts its head off. Now that Matthias has taken care of all the immediate threats to the kingdom, he wishes to leave the academy to find more Dragon Vein pillars. The headmaster offers to keep him in the student records as a special scholarship student so that he can use the school's help if he ever runs into trouble. He also extends the scholarship to Matthias' party members when they decide to join him on his adventures. The students bid them farewell and the four part ways with the academy. Matthias and his party leave on their adventure, and the girls are quite excited to leave the capital for the first time. Their first destination is Melkia Dungeon City, which is built on top of the dungeon. Matthias is shocked to learn that the city had established itself above the dungeons because it was unheard of during his time, and he has doubts about its safety. Luri and Alma say that the journey to the Adventurer's City will take them a few days, but Matthias and Iris say that it is not too far away if they take the route through the forest. Luri nervously tells him that the forest was a monster den, where strong and intelligent monsters were found. Instead of deterring him, this information makes Matthias even more curious to go through the forest. They enter the bleak forest, and surprisingly there are no monsters around them. The team decided to take a lunch break, but Matthias suggests that they should take this chance to eat some fresh meat and rushes to hunt some monsters. He is far away from the girls and senses that the forest is teeming with monsters, but they are moving in an orderly fashion, almost as if someone was commanding them. Matthias realizes that the intelligent monster is behind them, and he predicts that it is going to attack him next. A giant baboon monster attacks him, and Matthias slays it and takes it back to the girls. They are afraid of the monster, and Matthias tells them that it was neither strong nor intelligent enough to cause him any difficulties. He then brings out a giant wild boar he has hunted out of his storage and declares that it was their dinner. Luri uses her abilities to refine iron from the ground into a point, and Alma goes to fetch some herbs for seasoning, while Iris chops firewood. Alma fumbles around while cooking and causes an explosion while dealing with the herbs, and later she creates a sewer water soup that even Iris cannot digest. However, the boar meat is tasty, and after filling their stomachs, the party starts moving towards Melkia City, and no monster approaches them because their boss has already been defeated. They reach the dungeon city after sunset and find that it is bleak and almost empty when they arrive. A magical lamp post near them lights up, but it gives out weird magic signatures. Matthias realizes it is powered directly by the Dragon Vein instead of the typical Magistone, and it was not exactly a cutting-edge technology. A fruit vendor warns them to stay back as the lampposts explode often and are responsible for several deaths in the city. Sure enough, the lamppost suddenly bursts in front of their eyes, and Matthias and his friends escape the blast just in time. Luri lashes out at the fruit vendor about creating something with such lethal flaws, but he tells her to pipe down because this was done on the Lord's orders. The man explains that they used to use Magistones before, but the current Lord has prohibited their use in the city as they are its most valuable export product. Matthias asks the vendor if the Lord is also somehow responsible for the bleak condition of the city, and learns that he has sent most of the adventurers to the 10th floor of the dungeon to face a powerful monster, which is why the city looks so vacant. Matthias says that the Lord sounds like an incompetent douchebag and his decisions are harming the city. He decides their first course of action should be to go to the guild when he sees a notice that says everyone who wants to go to the dungeons needs a permit. However, when they reach the guild and ask for permits to enter the dungeon, the receptionist advises against it, saying that the permits are granted by the Lord himself. All those who have permits essentially become the Lord's lapdogs and need to do whatever absurd mission the Lord wishes for them to do whenever he wants them to do it. She explains that the missions are often dangerous and reckless, and there is always a casualty. Matthias and his party are unfazed, and despite the receptionist's warning and the scorn of injured men, they still ask for the permits. Before they can begin the application process, a woman frantically enters the guild and asks if there's anyone who knows how to use healing magic, as a large number of adventurers have come back severely wounded. Matthias volunteers without hesitation. He goes to the medical station and finds that there are a lot of injured people in critical condition, and there is no infrastructure or healers to help them. Matthias is furious and asks why the Adventurer City has no healers, and he learns that most of the healers have been kicked out by the current Lord because he considers them a waste of money. Matthias is determined to save everyone here. He analyzes everybody's magic energies to determine the severity of their injuries and places numbered tablets in the order of the severity of their injuries. He plans to heal them in descending order of their severity with the help of his party. However, the medics try to shoo him away because they can't afford to risk losing adventurers at the hands of some kid with the crest of failure. Matthias proves his competence by healing the most gravely injured adventurer. This shuts them up real quick, and Matthias requests that they work with him to save all the adventurers. With all their combined efforts, they are able to heal every single adventurer after a long night of restlessly casting healing spells. Matthias is exhausted, but he is relieved that no one died. The main medic asks him if he was a famous healer by chance, but he denies being anyone important and says that he could not do anything without everyone helping him. The medic thanks him, and Matthias asks him about the previous Lord and how his successor was appointed. He has heard stories that the previous Lord was a decent ruler, and he wants to know why he was suddenly replaced by an incompetent fool. The medic says that the previous Lord died suddenly in his sleep, and nobody knows the exact cause of death. Matthias speculates that demons must have killed the Lord, and one of them has taken up the position. He thinks that constructing a city over a dangerous dungeon must also have been the plan of the demons in the first place, and he decides to see what they are up to. After settling into a room, Matthias writes a letter to the headmaster to be forwarded to the king. The girls read the letter that only talks about their homework, but that is only a decoy, and Matthias is using a special box with a false bottom and other magical concealments to deliver the real message about everything going on in Melkia. He suspects mail sent out from Melkia must be inspected before being sent, which is why no news about the malpractices here has reached the capital. Alma suggests that it would be faster to go to the capital in person to talk to the king, but Matthias believes it is more important to see what's happening in the dungeon. They have their permits, and he plans to see the monster that injured so many people today. Everyone gets into their beds, and while Iris and Alma sleep carefreely, Matthias and Luri are too embarrassed to fall asleep. They can only think about sharing a room with each other and are too nervous to get a rest. On top of that, Iris and Alma startle them as they start speaking in their sleep. The next morning, Matthias is somehow fine, but Luri looks sleep-deprived. After that, the party enters the dungeons for a quick survey, and they first find themselves in front of a giant iron gate. Matthias says that the gate only looks tough and a strong monster can easily break through it, and Iris displays her monstrous strength as she opens the gate. They enter the dungeon and return with the skull of a monster that the girls and Iris took down with her OP dragon breathed herself to the guild. The receptionist is shocked beyond her wits because it's the strong monster that injured and killed so many of the city's adventurers. She says they will only get their reward once the Lord verifies it and writes a letter to him to report the kill, saying that the girls are super strong while the guy is a mere healer who doesn't get involved in fights. Matthias sneaks a peek at the report and he lets her give this false information to the Lord. The party sells the rest of their kills for money to afford a meal. Meanwhile, the Lord gets the report and he plans to deal with the party that defeated the strong monster. At dinner, Matthias compliments the girls for getting stronger and proving their teamwork. There are some people in the diner who are keeping an eye on them, and Matthias notices them. Even as the party leaves the diner, the men keep following them, and Matthias concludes that they were sent by the Lord, who has been spurred into action after they defeated the monster. Matthias changes the route and uses a telepathy spell to tell the girls they are being tailed by the Lord's goons. They hide their presence to test the intentions of the goons and then appear behind them, pretending to be clueless adventurers who have lost the way to their inn. The goons tell them the directions without even asking for the name of the inn, and that gives away the fact that they were spying on them. With their cover blown, the goons capture Matthias as a hostage, threatening to kill their weakest member if they don't agree to serve the Lord, and he acts along. Matthias' acting is pathetic, and the goons really believe that he is a mere healer, and thus the weakest member of their group. They laugh and declare that their party will have to become the Lord's slaves or die now. Matthias tells Iris to defeat them all without any weapons, and she casually walks towards them. The goons think she has no chance against them, and one of them attacks her with his metal club, but it breaks as she blocks his attack with her hands. Iris beats the goons one by one, knocking them out cold. Matthias is free, and he puts tracking and demon-detecting spells on them to test his suspicions about the Lord. The next morning, Matthias receives word from the king's messenger and tells his group that they will have to head out immediately. They go to meet the messenger at a particular spot in the dungeons, and only Matthias can sense his presence and call them out. The messenger introduces himself as Eek, and he was instructed to hide his presence until Matthias discovered him. Eek says that he comes with a message from the king about the shady things going on in Melkia City. He takes out a letter, reads the king's order to take the Lord of Melkia into custody, and gives Matthias the right to arrest him under the supervision of Eek. Matthias is grateful for this order and plans to arrest the Lord as soon as he can. Thanks to the tracking spells, he pinpoints the Lord's location in a house tucked away on the city's outskirts. Eek knows that the Lord's house is tightly guarded and he wants to call knights for reinforcement, but Matthias tells him that his team is strong enough to enter it. The five of them arrive at the house to see that it seems strangely quiet. The gate was closed in the middle of the day and there were no guards outside. Matthias uses his search spells and detects many goons waiting for them inside the house, though he thinks that the Lord somehow learned about their plan to seize him, and he was strengthening his defenses. Eek thinks that it is too dangerous to arrest the Lord now, and he suggests that they should return, but Matthias tells him that they are going to plow through the front entrance. They barge right in through the main door and are met by the goons, who think that they have walked into their trap. They underestimate them because they are only 5, and they attack them with many spells hurled at them, but Luri blocks them all with a shield. Matthias praises her, saying that her casting speed has greatly increased. Next, he Pikachus the hell out of the goons and takes them all down with just one spell. Eek thinks that the Lord must be hiding on the second floor, but Matthias has detected his magic signature coming from the basement. Luri states that the blueprints for the building did not mention anything about a basement, and he tells her that it must be a secret. He easily finds the secret entrance behind a painting, and stairs to the basement appear in front of them. As Matthias and his party go down the stairs, the Lord is in his secret chamber, wondering why everything is so quiet outside. His assistant suggests that the goons must have already been defeated, but the Lord doesn't think anyone could defeat them so easily. However, he still decides to be cautious and plans to take the secret passage to the surface. However, Matthias arrives in his office just then and says that he is not going to the secret passage anymore. The Lord does not know who he is and asks his assistant whose kid he was. However, when Matthias asks him if he sent men to kill him without knowing his face, the Lord gets up. Matthias calls his comrades ahead, and the Lord thinks this is his chance. He claims that it was a mistake for a healer to be away from the protection of his strong guards, and he commands his goons to attack him. The goons rush into the room from all sides, but it takes Matthias just one move to defeat them all. The Lord is stunned to see that he is not a healer, and then Eek steps forward and shows him the king's order to arrest him. The Lord refuses to accept the authority of a mere kid trying to arrest him, and he declares that terrible things will happen to Melkia City if anything happens to him. Matthias knocks him out with just a snap of his fingers and tells Eek to interrogate the foolish Lord. Matthias asks him to return to the capital immediately, and he plans to stay back to investigate other things that trouble him. He wants to know how the Lord was alerted of his surprise attack and finds the burned remains of a letter in the fireplace. Matthias reads it and finds that it mentions the news of the Lord's arrest and the king sending someone after him. He analyzes the letter with his spell and finds faint traces of magic on it, and he is sure that a demon is involved. Matthias thinks that the demons were controlling the Lord to do their bidding, and Luri asks if they were after Magistones. He replies that they were probably after the dragon vein of the dungeon city, which was many times larger than the one in the capital. If the demons could cast the right enchantment spell on this dragon vein, they could trigger a worldwide calamity. Everyone panics on hearing this, and Ake says he will hurry back to the capital. But Luri stops him and tells everyone to pay attention to their surroundings. Suddenly, the ground begins shaking, and Matthias finds out that it is an earthquake that was caused by the demons fiddling with the dragon vein. A monster horde is spawned outside the city, and Matthias and his friends sense them. He realizes that this must be what the Lord meant when he warned them not to harm him, but that is not important now. Matthias decides to get the demons away from the dragon vein because there are still 2 hours for the monster horde to reach the city, and he plans to deal with the demons before that. They enter the dungeons, access the dragon vein, and find that there is no sign of demons there. Matthias believes that they have moved to a deeper floor, and he looks around for traps. After that, he asks Iris to dig through a weak spot in the wall, and she breaks the wall and brings them to the dragon vein. Luri detects that there is a demonic energy surrounding the dragon vein, and Matthias believes that the demons have been planning to manipulate it for a long time, and right now they were only adding the finishing touches. He decides to split their forces into 2 to repair the dragon vein while defeating the demons. Matthias plans to go to the lower floors to fight, and the 3 girls have to stay behind and undo whatever the demons have done to the dragon vein. Luri panics because she is not confident she can do it without his help, but Matthias puts his faith in her, and her friends cheer her too. He casts a communication magic circle on the dragon vein and then goes to the lower floors. As Matthias deals with the monsters on the lower floors, he is constantly in touch with Luri, who is able to find the abnormal flow of magic and is working to nullify it. Matthias warns her to go slow and steady because one wrong move and she could blow up the entire city. After he hunts down the monsters in front of him, he realizes that he is close to the demon's hideout. Matthias enters an open area and finds a demon using magic to manipulate the dragon vein. The demon also notices him hiding his presence and calls him out. Matthias faces the demon and finds slight fluctuations in his magic, and he concludes that he was using communication magic. He taps into his communication stream and finds that the demon was in contact with his master, who was talking shit about him. The master suspects that Matthias is not working alone, and one of his colleagues is trying to restore the dragon vein. He commands his underling to kill them both quickly and warns him to be cautious while fighting against them. Matthias thinks that the master demon seems to be quite smart and knowledgeable, and he looks forward to having a good fight with him. He immediately casts enchantments on his sword and attacks the demon, who blocks it with an exploding barrier. Matthias jumps back to dodge it, and the demon tries to taunt him that he was useless before his exploding barrier. The demon boss also tells him to finish the fight quickly before his opponent finds a way to break through the barrier. Matthias is certain that the exploding barrier was a spell created specifically to fight him, and the demon he is fighting right now is the strongest one he has seen in this life. He contacts Luri and tells her to cast the magic circles numbers 14 and 17 immediately. The demon taunts Matthias, saying that he has made all preparations to defeat him. Matthias attacks him, but the demon uses a magic blast at him before he can get close. He thinks that he got him, but Matthias attacks him from behind, and the demon boss warns him in time to counter that attack. The demon claims that one hit from his attack will kill any human, and Matthias replies that he won't be able to hit him. The demon master is constantly giving instructions to his underlings about how to fight a crest of failure, and the demon follows the instructions and uses a series of ranged magic attacks to stop Matthias from getting close to him or escaping, but he defends himself using a barrier. Matthias contacts Luri again and tells her to keep the spells he asked her to cast ready because he might need them anytime now. The demon in front of him is getting frustrated, and he asks his boss what he should do next. The master tells him to move on to the second stage of their plan and lure Matthias into the trap. Matthias was waiting for that too, and he rushes towards the demon, who fires magic blasts at him while flying away. Matthias asks Luri to cast spell number 14 first, and that cancels the traps the demons have laid out for him. The demon panics and tries to contact his boss, but then Luri casts spell number 17, and the communication is cut off too. Matthias taunts the demon, who is still quite confident that his exploding barrier will save him. Matthias attacks him with magic, and the barrier easily deflects his attack, but he keeps on launching magic bullets. The demon laughs, assured of his safety, but then Matthias stabs his barrier with his sword. He had found the cooldown duration between the explosion ability of the barrier, and using that chance, he broke it. The demon flies away, calling him a monster, and then his boss reestablishes the communication channel. The demon is anxious, and he claims that Matthias must really be the reincarnation of Gaius, but the boss refuses to entertain that thought, claiming that if he were really Gaius, he would have killed him already. Matthias realizes that if the demon boss knows him from his previous life, he must be ridiculously old and dangerous. The master orders the demon to use his ultimate resort called Disfortune. He overloads himself with magic and buffs up in an instant as he launches a flurry of attacks at Matthias, who easily dodges them all. He counterattacks and brings the demon to the ground before charging his sword to deal a killing blow. The demon is unable to dodge the aerial slash and loses its arm, and then Matthias beheads it with the next strike. He informs Lurie and others that the demon has been dealt with, and they are quite happy. The monster horde coming towards the dungeon city disappears as soon as Lurie restores the dragon Veen, and Alma and Iris defend her from all the incoming monsters. Now the only thing left is to pin down the demon giving orders, and Matthias tries to track him. The demon suddenly starts speaking to him and declares that he will not be able to track him. Matthias realizes that the demon master was also tapped into his communication channel with Lurie, and he is surprised. He finds that the signal was coming from a border town a few miles away from here, but it was just a decoy. Matthias admits that he has no way to tell where the demon is hiding, but he says that they will eventually fight each other. The demon has no intention to fight him and tells him that he will need to find him first. He appears to be sealed in a huge magistone in a dark place and abruptly cuts off the communication channel. Matthias is really impressed with the demon, and he feels that beating him will be a challenge on another level than the ones he and his party have gone through so far. When the party sits down to rest, he explains that they are going to search for the boss of the demons now. He was hiding his presence using a relay device and a decoy, but the communication spell had a faint trace of the caster's magic on it. Matthias has recorded the trace in Magistome, and Alma is surprised that he could do that. He then tells them that there is an ancient device that can read the Magistone and determine the location of the caster from his magic signature. Lurie says that she has never heard about such a device, and Matthias replies that it is something from ancient times. Lurie and Alma are shocked to hear this, and they ask Matthias how he knows to use it then, and he fumbles around before saying that he kind of stumbled on it. But he was the one who created it in the first place. He pulls out a map and states that the device is located in the present-day Redenia Alliance across the kingdom's border. Matthias decides it would be easiest to cross the border with the king's help, so they decide to return to the capital. They arrive at the second academy campus to find that it is no longer in one piece. Seeing this confuses them, but as they walk around, they come to notice that the second academy campus is undergoing complete reconstruction. Just then, the headmaster comes to greet Matthias, and he asks him what was happening here. The headmaster explains that they were rebuilding the second academy from scratch, and they were planning to make it like a fortress that could not be penetrated by even demons. The classes are being held in the first academy right now, and the students of both academies are helping with the construction work as well. After that, they go to the headmaster's temporary office and inform him that there was another demon pulling the strings in the dungeon city, and he has obscured his location. In order to find him, they need to cross the border with the Redenia Alliance. Matthias learns that they are their allies and asks if the king will help them cross the border. The headmaster says he will relay the message to His Majesty and request that he get the Redenia Alliance's guild's cooperation to ensure things go smoothly. The party offers to help with the construction until they get the green light to cross the boundary, and the headmaster is glad to have them on board. Matthias goes through the plans and suggests ideas to make the new building even stronger, while Lurie teaches other students how to properly enchant the building materials. Iris tries help by carrying steel beams, but she is clumsy and does more damage than help. A few days later, they get a written permit and recommendation from the king and set off for the Redenia Alliance. The girls are quite excited because they have never left the kingdom before, and they want to see what kind of place Redenia Alliance is. Thanks to the king's recommendation, they have no problem passing through the checkposts, and they quickly reach their destination. Of course, this wasn't their only obstacle to getting to the device. The area where the device is has been marked as a restricted region because the magic signature of the device is so strong that it may cause a calamity if handled carelessly. According to the information from the headmaster, only A-rank adventurers from their guild are authorized to access it, and Matthias decides that they must become A-rank adventurers as soon as possible. The girls wonder why they have to follow the rules of the guild if they have the king's permit, but Matthias wants to play it safe. However, if getting to A-rank takes too much time, he plans to get Iris to transform into her dragon form and hover over the city, creating a panic that will allow them to sneak into the restricted zone. They arrive at Redenia's guild to be greeted by the branch head, who was expecting them from the king's message. He has heard great things about Matthias and his party, and he also knows that they plan to enter the restricted area. The branch head says that usually all adventurers start at the lowest rank, but he will make an exception for them and allow them to take the A-rank test directly. He explains that all of them must pass the A-rank test, which is a mock fight with a proctor, before going to the restricted region. At that moment, Giluiz, a famous S-rank adventurer of Redenia, enters and says he will be the proctor of the exam. The branch head says that he cannot be the proctor, and Matthias knows the reason behind that statement. He can feel the overwhelming magic signature of Giluiz, which was comparable to that of a demon. However, no matter how famous he might be in his country, Matthias and his party have never heard of the S-rank adventurer. The branch head whispers to Matthias that Giluiz only thinks about fighting all the time, but he does not like that statement. The branch head claims that he called for another proctor, but Giluiz says that he ran away because he was not feeling well. He is adamant on being the proctor, and the branch head is too afraid of him to do anything about it. Matthias has no problem with a change in the proctor, but the branch head tells him that no one has ever passed Giluiz's test. He has always failed most people without even fighting them because he believed they were too weak and his time would be wasted on them. Giluiz states that he will only fight strong people, and Matthias finds him interesting. They go to the arena where he passes Iris, Alma, and Luri without even fighting them, but insists on having a duel with Matthias. He has heard a lot about him and wants to face this kid who's become known as a demon slayer. Matthias realizes that this was his plan from the beginning, and he takes on the challenge. They enter the arena, and the referee starts by informing them of the rules of the battle. Giluiz stretches as he hopes that today he will get to fight someone strong, and Matthias is also curious about the skills of an S-rank adventurer. Outside, his friends are also slightly worried about him, and the branch head claims that Giluiz is a combat prodigy who has never lost a duel. Before the duel begins, Giluiz claims he doesn't use any magic to fight, but Matthias can if he wants to. Matthias had the impression that Giluiz was a spellsword like him, judging from his magic signature, and he asks him if he was holding back on him by not using magic. He replies that he is not trying to give him a handicap, he just never uses magic. However, as Giluiz draws his sword, he seems to cast a strengthening enhancement on his body. Matthias gets into position and tells him to attack when ready. Giluiz charges at him with great speed, and Matthias boosts his physical abilities to evade his attack. He realizes that Giluiz casts enchantments on his body and sword, but he does not know this since he does them unconsciously. He keeps on attacking Matthias and even manages to push him back with his powerful blows. Giluiz has fun as he spars with Matthias, and he uses more reinforcement spells subconsciously on his sword and body as they keep on exchanging blows. Matthias thinks that it is an impressive ability because most people can't cast any spells subconsciously, but Giluiz could do it very easily. The two seem to be evenly matched in terms of swordsmanship, and everyone is surprised at their intensity. However, Giluiz realizes that Matthias is holding back on him, and Matthias does not refute his doubts. He gets angry and asks him to show his true ability, so Matthias spices things up by using magic. He jumps up and creates a magic foothold to attack Giluiz, whose magic power is getting stronger the more he fights. Matthias is impressed that he is growing and improving in a real battle. He guesses that Giluiz never had the chance to fight with anyone stronger than him till now, but now that he has met someone way above his league, his combat instincts are adapting and growing stronger. Giluiz rushes towards Matthias and then jumps high in the sky, and Matthias thinks that it is foolish to do that without using magic spells. However, Giluiz uses the same magic he used and jumps around in the air using the magic foothold. Matthias cannot believe that he could copy it after seeing it just once, and then blocks his next attack. Giluiz thinks that this attack is connected and he has defeated his opponent, but as he is laughing, the dust cloud clears and Matthias is unharmed. He compliments Giluiz for the last move, but says that it was not sufficient to take him down because he lacks practice in his spell casting. He charges towards him, uses physical enhancement magic to overpower him, and tosses him to the arena wall. Matthias points his sword at him and Giluiz accepts his defeat. He is embarrassed because this was the first time he lost, but Matthias praises him, saying that his skills are incredible. Giluiz asks how he can get as strong as Matthias, and he gives him the book he wrote on casting spells to help him improve in combat magic. Matthias believes that Giluiz has the talent to surpass even him, but he thinks that he is being mocked. Matthias assures him that he is serious and learning everything in the book will make him much stronger. Giluiz looks down on magic because he thinks all spells can only be cast by reciting chants, leaving the caster vulnerable. However, Matthias points out that wordless magic doesn't have that weakness and that Giluiz in fact uses it without realizing it. He tells him that if he starts casting those spells consciously, he will get even stronger. Gilius sets his mind on improving his combat magic. However, he gets a headache after reading the first page and asks Matthias if there is a spell that can make him instantly smarter. Later, Gilius tells Matthias that he should aim for the S rank as he is easily the strongest human on the continent, but Matthias passes his offer. He claims that with A rank, he will be able to enter his destination, which is in the Folkia region. Gilius gets a little tense on hearing that name and tells him that right now Folkia is a weird place. The atmosphere there had changed a lot recently, with the checkpoints growing stricter and many adventurer parties going missing. Gilius tells Matthias that if he finds himself in trouble, he can call him for help. With that, the party departs for the restricted Folkia region and comes across a checkpoint where the guards give them passes to access the area. They warn them that the passes are only for the main road and they should not stray away from it. The girls think that the checkpoint is not as strict as they had heard, but Matthias detects a magic code inscribed in the passes. He decodes the message on the pass, which says they're a threat that must be dealt with immediately. The girls are shocked to read this and wonder what it means, but Matthias says that the content is not the most important thing right now. The coding technology used on the pass was the same one demons use. The girls are stunned to learn this, but Matthias tells them that the guards were definitely humans and the person in contact with demons must be someone higher up. The party suspects the entire Folkia region must now be controlled by demons, and that is why the guards consider any suspicious outsider a threat. Sure enough, a large group of bandits can be seen waiting to ambush them in the distance. They understand that this is what Gilius meant when he said parties go missing in the Folkia region. Iris asks for permission to knock all the bandits out, but Matthias decides against that and says that they will just put them to sleep. He does not want to create a commotion, as that will make entering the city harder, and he gives Luri and Alma a sleeping potion to sneakily put the bandits to sleep while he and Iris distract them. He creates illusions of Luri and Alma that look convincing enough from a distance, and the plan begins. Matthias shouts that they are under attack, and the bandits realize that they have been found. They cannot hesitate any longer and shoot arrows at them. Iris deflects the arrows, but some still hit her, and she gets furious. She's about to charge at the bandits, but Matthias trips her because he is sure someone will die if she attacks them. Using the chance Matthias created, Luri and Alma have sneaked behind the bandits, and they activate the magic item and release the sleeping gas. The bandits fall asleep, and after seeing the gas cloud, Matthias and Iris go and check up on them. They find that Luri and Alma could not get away from the gas in time, and they are also sound asleep. Seeing them sound asleep, Iris decides to prank Alma and draws on her face. Matthias finds Luri too cute while sleeping, but he still wakes her up and warns her to consider the range of magic tools before using them the next time. She nervously apologizes and then turns back to see her friend with fake mustaches drawn on her face. Luri laughs at her, while Alma realizes that it was Iris who did this, and she quarrels with her. After that, they make their way to Folkia City, which appears to be filled with workshops that constantly emit smoke and steam. The girls feel an eerie atmosphere in the city, and Luri and Matthias detect over 30 demonic magical signatures spread throughout the city. Matthias adds that the magic signatures feel quite small, but that is only because the demons are concealing their presence. Luri and Alma ask Matthias how there can be so many demons in the city because he told them that demons hate working in groups. He explains that Folkia is probably overrun by demi-demons, a special class of demons that can't use any special spells but work together in groups. He believes that if demi-demons are the ones controlling the city, the situation is more troublesome than he expected. The security is also tight, but since they have already confirmed that demi-demons infest the city, he feels no need to go through the main entrance. He tells his friends that he has found something interesting and takes them to a hidden passage, which he uncovers by dispelling the magic cast on it. He believes that it was a passage exclusively used by the demons, and it will lead them right into the heart of the city. They enter the secret passage to infiltrate the city, but first, they need to pass the stinking sewers. The sewer is quite dark, and as they move forward, Matthias tells them to stop as his detection magic is picking something up. There is a demon waiting right around the corner, and the group wonders how they should deal with him. Matthias says that they will pass in without any difficulty, and he uses a spell that allows him to walk through walls. Matthias reaches the other side, and he takes his hands out of the wall right behind the demi-demon and uses a spell that puts him in a stupor. He calls his friends ahead since it is safe now and says that this man was the only lookout. He has used a stupefaction spell to extremely dull his senses for a while, and they can leave without being seen now. Iris wants to draw on his face too, but Matthias stops her from doing that. They reach the town and sneak around to avoid being found. The atmosphere inside the city is even worse than what it seems from outside, and Alma remarks that even Melchior would be considered a good place compared to it. All the townspeople look like zombies, walking around aimlessly with a blind gaze like they're in some sort of trance. and they don't even notice Matthias' party standing right in the middle of the road. Matthias notices that their magic signatures are also weird, so he stops a man and finds that there is some kind of spell cast on him. He realizes that it was a spell called Thought Paralysis and was a stupefaction spell just like the one he cast on the lookout. His friends are certain that this is the work of the demons. They find a long line in front of a factory where a demon is casting a thought paralysis spell on the townspeople to subjugate them into mindlessly working in the factory. Matthias and his friends join the line too, and he casts a counterspell on everyone so they can pretend to be under thought paralysis and enter the factory to investigate. He reminds Iris to act like she is spaced out, and she takes his advice to heart and trips while walking. One of the demons comes running to her, and he believes that she is suffering from an overdose of thought paralysis. He complains that overdosing humans decreases their efficiency, but then allows them to go on ahead. What they find inside is worrying, to say the least. The humans are working in a large refining factory, and the technology they use is more advanced than most places. Alma wonders what kind of ore they are refining, and Matthias tells her that it is Rankane magical ore, a type of mineral that can be used to make explosives. 1 ton of pure Rankane explosive can eliminate an entire kingdom, but Matthias states that getting that much pure crystal would take decades. Of course, the factory is still too dangerous, and they can't let this go on, so they plot a strategy to bring it down. He first marks the location of all 30 demi-demons on the map and points out that they are primarily gathered in the city center. He states that it will be hard to isolate the demi-demons to defeat them because they will prefer to stay close to each other to maintain their shared consciousness, using which they can communicate with each other and achieve flawless teamwork. Alma and Luri say that if one of the demi-demons is killed, others will be alerted, and they might need to kill them all at once, but Matthias says that it is not possible. Instead of that, he plans to take advantage of their shared consciousness and teamwork by turning it against them. Matthias first unmasks Iris' massive magical signature, alerting the demons and forcing several of them to come and investigate the threat. Their leader tells them to surround the area in which the magic signature was observed, but none of them find anything that may have given off that reading. The leader commands them to keep closing in towards the location and calls the rest of the demi-demons there too. The demons finally find Iris standing alone, and as they approach her, one of them is killed by Matthias. When his partner turns around, he also joins him in death. The demons notice that 2 of them have been killed, and they realize that they have been found. They keep rushing towards the spot to confront the intruders, but they are taken down by explosions caused by Matthias, Alma, and Luri. As the clueless demons die, their leader wonders what is happening all of a sudden. A few minutes earlier, Matthias explained his plan to the girls. First, he would start by unmasking the massive magic signature of Iris all at once, which would put all the demi-demons on alert. They would try to circle around her, and Alma and Luri would stay on standby near Iris and defeat them sneakily. Iris did not like the role of the decoy, but Matthias flattered her, saying that only she can handle such a role. Right now, everything is going according to plan, and Matthias is whittling down the numbers one by one, with Iris drawing the attention of the demi-demons. She runs and taunts them, and as they try to attack her, their weapons crumble. She gets a chance to join the fight and takes down one of the demons, and his partner decides to run away for her life, but Matthias comes out of the ground and pulls her in. Matthias tells Iris to keep running because he wants to trick the demi-demons into thinking that she was single-handedly killing their members. The truth was that he was notifying Luri and Alma in advance about the path demons were taking, and they were tossing bombs at them. The bombs were not strong enough to take down the demons, but they provided the perfect cover for Matthias to finish the job. The number of dead demi-demons keeps piling up. Matthias knows that since they are always in contact with each other because of their shared consciousness, it is easy to spread misinformation among them. He is certain that right now they think that the town has been rigged with all sorts of lethal traps. Matthias has guessed correctly, as the demons stop moving and focus their senses on trying to find the traps. Matthias commands Luri and Alma to hide their presence, and he also helps them dim their magical signature enough to appear like normal citizens. Because of that, the demons are not able to detect any trap or intruder, and they start moving again. Matthias and his team take this chance and kill even more of them, and the leader of the demi-demons finally realizes that they are not facing any ordinary enemy. He moves to the site of battle, but is too late, and Matthias' team has successfully hunted down over 20 demons by now. The leader of the demons reaches a fallen scout, and he picks 2 magical signatures from his body. On top of that, he finds that he was killed by a blade and not by the bombs. He relays this message to the others and tells them that their enemies are hiding and hunting them. The demons change their strategy, and Matthias notices the change in their movement pattern. He tells his friends to stay exactly where they are, as he rushes to fight with the rest of the demi-demons who are gathering together. Their leader tells them that they can no longer afford to go into the battlefield alone. He believes that since their enemy was relying on cheap tricks like divide and conquer, they must not be confident in facing them head-on. He decides that they will meet them with their full force and use the Rankine magic crystals to blow them up. The scout demons are not sure of this idea, but their leader is desperate to defeat the intruders, even if it means blowing up half the city for it. He claims the humans are disposable, and they can get as many of them as they want later. One of the demons volunteers to bring the explosive ores, but someone slashes him from behind. The leader of the demons smiles, thinking that the enemy pestering them has shown his face. However, it was not Matthias he saw, but Giluas. He mocks the demon leader's decision to blow up the city and claims that his decision to come to Phokio was correct. Matthias also notices his magic signature and realizes that Giluas has already started fighting the demons. The leader of the demi-demons draws his swords and attacks him, pushing him back. He is determined to get vengeance for his dead comrades, but Giluas says that they will get nothing. The demons surround him from all sides, and Matthias is there to see him take them on. He decides to help his friend and takes down 2 of the demons from behind. The rest of the demons attack him, but before he can fight them, he feels something coming towards them and dodges. A spear lands right in front of him, and Matthias finds that Iris was here. The impact of the spear disbalances all the demons, and Matthias makes quick work of them before returning to Iris, who claims that she was getting too bored of playing decoy that she decided to join the fight. She laughs, saying that she threw her spear straight at Matthias, believing that he would dodge it. Meanwhile, Giluas is facing the leader of the demi-demons, and they are equally matched. However, his attacks cannot pierce the tough defense of the demon, who manages to injure him. Matthias asks Giluas if he needs any help, but he tells him to stay out of his fight. The demon and Giluas both cover themselves with reinforcement magic and begin fighting again. Alma and Luri also come there and find that they are evenly matched. Matthias says that Giluas has become stronger by reading his book, and he might actually defeat a demon himself. He is getting pushed back, but he finally manages to injure the leader of the demons using the Recoil Sunder Steel spell that takes a great toll on his body. The infuriated demon attacks him and forces him on his knees, but Giluas still does not want Matthias to help him. He gets up and uses 2 Recoil Sunder Steel spells at once and slashes the demon, and Matthias realizes that Giluas must be at his limit now. The demon is impressed with his strength and tenacity and declares that he will use his ultimate spell to finish him off, but Giluas also plans to do the same. They charge at each other, and Giluas is the one who is still standing on his feet. He lets out a victory roar, but then collapses because of the blood loss. Matthias compliments him, saying that he won by a hair's breadth, and Luri gets down to cast healing magic on him as the townsfolk gather around them. However, the demi-demon leader's eyes suddenly glow red, and he gets back up and charges at Matthias. Matthias blocks his attack and says that he should have been dead, but his magic signature was stronger than ever. The same voice he heard commanding the demon in the Melkia dungeon speaks from the demi-demon's mouth. The voice threatens to come after Matthias once he destroys the seal and revives completely. After that, the demi-demon's body disintegrates. Matthias realizes that the demon master was using a powerful spell to reanimate the demi-demon, but his body was not strong enough to keep up with that spell for long. He wonders who the powerful demon is pulling the strings behind this, but then Giluas draws his attention to himself and asks him to heal him quickly. The people who were under the thought paralysis spell regain consciousness and are very confused. Matthias thinks it will be hard to control this situation, but Giluas is healed now, and he decides to handle it. As a high-ranking adventurer, Giluas assumes temporary emergency control over Phokio until it returns to normal. He asks for any person of authority here, and the factory foreman comes forward. Giluas assigns him as the provisional lord of Phokio, and Matthias and his friends are shaken by his way of handling things. After that, the party parted ways with Giluas, with Matthias looking forward to seeing how much he grows in strength when they meet again. They set out for the restricted zone and finally make it to the area of the device. The girls are astonished to see the remains of the ancient magic super-civilization, and Matthias fights back his urge to boast that he was the one who created it. As they go closer, Matthias almost lets it slip that he was the one who made the device and the ruins containing them as just thousands of years ago. The device is under a pyramid-like structure that can only be opened by enchanting it with a particular spell. Matthias unlocks it, prompting the pyramid to elevate and reveal an underground passage they must enter. The girls say that there is no path to take, but Matthias tells them that they have to jump to the bottom. He jumps first, followed by the 3 girls, and inside they see the ancient device still preserved in pristine condition. While Matthias prepares it for activation, he asks the others to look around the ruin for valuable artifacts, but he is mortified to see that Luri found the cringy weapon he made just for fun. Alma finds a very heavy spear that was one of the failed prototypes, and it was dangerous to the user. Iris has also found a crate of preserved food from ancient times, and he wonders if the preservation magic cast on it could keep it edible even after thousands of years. As soon as Iris opens a can, a horrendous stench fills the room, and he gets his answer. Soon the device is ready, and Matthias uses it to analyze a part of the refinery in Folkia City, since it could lead them to the person who gave the advanced refining technology to the demi-demons. The building starts shaking as the device works, and Matthias assures his friends that it is normal. The analysis is complete soon, and the list of all people who came into contact with the mechanical part is displayed. Matthias confirms his doubts that the demon who was the mastermind behind the Melkia dungeon incident was behind Folkia 2, and he was probably planning to destroy humanity. After that, he places the Magistone with the demon's trace on the device to find his location. He operates the device on full power, and it finds clues about the demon, but the screens turn red, indicating that the seal on the demon is about to be lifted soon. Alma and Luri think that Matthias is strong enough to reinstate the seal, but he is not sure. He reveals that the demon behind all this is Zardius, a demon so powerful that even the mages back in Gaia's time couldn't eliminate him, and he had to be magically sealed away. Matthias thinks that even if they use immortality magic on themselves and train for thousands of years, they might barely be able to defeat Zardius, but by that time, humanity would be extinct already. Iris says that it would be great if they found this super powerful weapon to fight against the demon, and Matthias has a brilliant idea. He makes the device analyze one of the cringy weapon's magic signatures to pinpoint the location of another powerful sword Gaius has made. Luckily, the sword is collecting dust in the capital's treasury, and with that, Matthias sees hope of defeating Zardius, who has finally broken free from his seal. Matthias and friends speed off toward the capital on Iris' dragon form, and he hands Alma and Luri Magistone that will react to the magic sword. On the way, they all feel a massive magical signature, indicating that Zardius has completely broken the seal and is following them. Matthias declares that it is a race against time, and if the demon finds them before they get the magic sword, humanity is doomed. He commands Luri and Alma to look for the magic sword in the royal treasury while he tries to hold off Zardius. He thinks that the great barrier surrounding the capital can keep the weaker demons away, but it will have no effect on Zardius. Matthias and the girls wish each other good luck as they freefall towards the royal treasury. Only mid-flight do they realize that they have to pass the barrier covering the capital, but they know no spells to do so. Luckily, Matthias enchanted the Magistone he gave them earlier, allowing them to pass through it without trouble. Meanwhile, Matthias waits for Zardius along with Iris. He anticipates that Zardius is traveling through a dimension available only to demons, and he will soon arrive here with his army, and until then, he needs to prepare a welcome attack for him. He enchants his sword and waits as the sky turns red. Meanwhile, Luri and Alma run to the palace, planning to break into the treasury by force and then apologizing to the king later. However, they notice the intense magical signature of Zardius as he arrives over the capital through a portal tearing through space. Matthias attacks the portal with his enchanted sword to seal it, but it is useless, and Zardius comes out of it anyway. Everyone watches the sky eagerly, where Matthias asks Iris to unleash a giant blast through her dragon breath spell and then retreat. She launches a powerful dragon breath, but it doesn't land a scratch on Zardius even after hitting him directly. Matthias didn't expect dragon breath to do much damage against Zardius, but he never thought that it would be completely useless either. The demon draws his sword from the alternate dimension and declares that this fight will be humanity's last stand against him. Matthias attacks him, but Zardius sends aerial slashes towards Iris, and he is forced to use multi-layered barriers to protect her, but the attack breaks through all of them easily. As he is distracted by that, Zardius attacks him, and Matthias barely blocks his attack. He realizes that the demon is not just powerful, but faster and more skilled than any demon he has ever faced. However, he puts his faith in his friends who have just reached the treasury. The guard does not allow them to enter without permission from the king, so they decide to bust through the door, but the king comes there just then. After hearing about the demon Zardius and how Matthias needed the magic sword to defeat him, he commands the door to be opened. Back in the skies over the capital, Matthias is being overwhelmed by the rapid attacks of Zardius. He thinks that he dodged all of the demon's attacks, but one attack grazes him and he starts falling, and Iris comes to support him. Matthias knows that if he gets hit by another attack, he will definitely die, and the longer Luri and Alma take to bring the sword, the lower his chances of winning become. Zardius says that he is disappointed in Matthias, who is hailed as the strongest in this era. He prepares to finish him, and Matthias thinks that he must wager his life to protect humanity. Zardius uses a powerful magic blast that divides in the sky and threatens to destroy the city, but Matthias stops it with a barrier. While he does that, Zardius sneaks up behind him, claiming that he knows he is making preparations to fight him inside the barrier, but it will be useless. Matthias attacks him, and Zardius says that as long as the barrier covers the city, his underlings won't be able to enter it. However, he reveals that he used his power to resurrect the demons they killed in the capital way back, and Matthias realizes that the city is not safe. In the city, Luri and Alma have found the magic sword Matthias wants, and they rush to take it to him. They are running towards Matthias to give him the sword, but they meet the weaker of the two demons they had defeated earlier within the capital. The demon attacks them, but their skills have improved manifold since they left the capital, and they put the demon down easily. However, the stronger demon enters the scene after that and tells them to hand over the sword to him. He threatens them by bringing out the two Second Academy classmates he is keeping as hostages to blackmail the girls. The girls submit and lower their weapons. Meanwhile, Zardius keeps Matthias on his toes by attacking the barrier, and when he goes to defend it, he diverts the attack to Iris. Matthias defends her, but that allows Zardius to hit him. It's getting beaten, and the demon tells him to cast aside the worthless weaklings and show him his true strength as the strongest human. However, Matthias has almost run out of magical energy, and he contemplates whether he should use the last of his power to reincarnate again in the next era, when Zardius' power will have weakened, at least a little. The current civilization would perish, but that would be the smartest way to deal with an enemy like Zardius. However, he can't bear the thought of leaving his friends behind to perish along with the current civilization. With renewed zeal, Matthias uses up his life energy to increase his magical power to hold out until he gets the sword. At the same time, the demon down below is about to take the sword from Alma and Luri when the headmaster and a bunch of Second Academy students come to their rescue. The demon is distracted for a moment, and in that small interval, they take the sword away from him and free the hostages. Then they combine their attacks again to injure him. The rest of the students use their magic to restrain the demon, and the headmaster tells the girls to go and complete their mission. Matthias is having trouble landing his attacks on Zardius, even after using his life energy. He tells Iris to fly him to Zardius and commands her to use the dragon's breath, but she loses her powers mid-flight and falls to the ground, while Matthias teleports to take Zardius by surprise but fails to do so. The girls reach them and finally throw the sword at Matthias. However, as soon as he turns his back to grab it, Zardius stabs him through the heart, killing him. Everyone is devastated as Matthias falls down, but then the sword starts glowing and a bright light carries him upward. The light disperses and Matthias appears before Zardius, thanking him for helping him achieve the requirement for the sword's activation, the wielder's death. Once activated, the sword revives the wielder and infuses them with tremendous magical energy. Matthias radiates with energy and begins fighting Zardius, and this time he has the upper hand. He believes that the magic sword was the pinnacle of his creation in his previous life. However, its power is so intense that he can barely manage to control it. He knows that if he cannot control his powers, he might accidentally destroy the capital, so he decides to finish the battle quickly. Zardius tells Matthias that even with this much power, his physical body won't be able to fight for long, but he replies that he can simply reanimate his body with magic to keep on fighting. Zardius is frustrated, and he demands to know Matthias's real identity and how he is stronger than him. Matthias declares that he is the strongest sage of the weakest crest and delivers a lethal blow to Zardius, turning him into ash. However, before dying, Zardius warns Matthias that he is not the only chaos demon in the world. More demons will come after this, and one of them will surely destroy humanity. With that, he dissipates, and the sky returns to normal. Matthias gets down, and he is greeted by his friends. Luri is overjoyed to see him fine, and she jumps at him, and they have a romantic moment before his wound opens and he starts to bleed out. He patches himself as he gets up, and then decides to release all the pent-up magic stored inside the magic sword since it could be used only once. He swings the sword, but the remaining energy in it is powerful enough to blast a hole in the nearby mountain. Finally, the world-ending crisis is over and a peace returns to humans all over the world. Having completely exhausted his magical energy, Matthias returns to Second Academy as a student until his energy is replenished. As he gets ready, he hears Luri and Alma talking outside as they debate whether they should disturb him or not. Iris joins them too, and before she can break his door, he opens it, and the girls fall to the floor. After that, the king praises them for saving all of humanity and generously rewards them with everything they want for their miraculous deeds. He allows Matthias and his friends to visit the royal treasury again so that they can choose whatever they want. However, the only useful thing Matthias finds there is an adamantite arrow he made in his past life. He recalls that he made a powerful bow to go along with it and plans to give it to Alma, but learns that it was rusted badly, and the palace decides to sell it as cheap scrap. They go to the scrap shop hoping it is still there, but the shop has already melted the bow into a metal cube, because they could not identify what it was. Matthias is disappointed that their civilization doesn't know the worth of adamantite, but he decides to buy all the metal blocks, hoping to extract pure adamantite out of them. After that, he finds Iris Eye an amethyst crystal, and he decides to buy it. Luri notices that, and she wants Matthias to buy something for her too. She cannot say it, but Alma speaks for her, and Matthias blushes as he looks at Luri. Following her advice, he buys a magic crystal, planning to make something out of it for Luri later. He calls her out to meet him at night and blushes as he presents his gift to her. Matthias asks her to close her eyes for a while, and she thinks that he is going to kiss her, but he just puts a locket he created around her neck. Luri is overjoyed to receive the present. After that, Matthias leaves for his next adventure with his party. He has heard about demons controlling their neighboring empire, and it is up to him to foul their plans again. Matthias recalls what Zardius told him about more chaos demons being out in the world, and he plans to spend his time leveling up his crest of close combat with his amazing friends. He is sure that they will go on many adventures and defeat all demons threatening humans, and as they do that, he will become the strongest sage of this era. Watch this video on the screen next. See you next time.